Hello and welcome to another edition of Power of the Pen. I'm your host, Luana Bradford. Thank you for joining us on E360 TV. And I'm excited because today we have a special guest joining us who is no stranger to our platform, none other than Cornelia Brown. And she is on a move. She had a recent book release out late last summer called Edelweiss and Collard Greens. We featured that on this platform. And now she has a Christmas holiday children's book for us. So we will be back in a moment so we can unpackage what Cornelia has going on. Hey, Cornelia, how's it going?
Hello, I'm so excited to see you. I am all ready for you.
I see you're all ready for the holidays. You look all snug and comfy. Well, you have been busy. I know you're on a mission. You want to get certain messages out. Not only do you are you a inclusion advocate, you're a realtor, you're a minister, you're a public speaker, an author of multiple books, including books on diversity, and you've also added children's author to your portfolio. And becoming a children's author, sometimes people think, oh, it's so easy, right? Because we're making a simple read for a young audience. But I would think, and I want to pass it over to you before we dig into your book, that it's actually a bit more challenging because now your adult mind has to translate the message so that a younger mind can not only understand but relate to any hidden messages that may be there.
Absolutely. Let me tell you, first of all, I love writing children's books. I really do. And you know why? Because I wanted to write books that I wish I had access to when I grew up. So everything always is about diversity and cultural inclusion. So all my families are always very colorful, but also the messages in a children's book have to be very clear to the child and to help them to navigate in a confusing world. And so it is very important, extremely important, to make sure that what we write and how we express it, that we stimulate that young mind and help them to understand some things that they may have not understood for a while. So yes, it is extremely important.
You said that you enjoy writing books because these are things that you didn't have growing up. You wish you had had them. And, we're in the same age group. And our books that we did have were around fairy tales, right? But your books deal with the now. They deal with reality, but in a creative storytelling fashion. What made you take that position and not go the fairy tale type of route when it came to writing children's stories?
Well, one thing is that storytelling can be fun, and it can express what we see beyond what we see. However, we need to make sure that we, in our books, explain to the children where we are really coming from with certain thought processes. And for me, first of all, that cultural inclusion, I want them to see, every shade and flavor of humanity every single time. But also, when the family is celebrating certain things, to go beyond that celebration and and begin to understand maybe where certain things came from, and again, to explore their own spirituality. And that's what this little book is all about.
Well, let's talk about this little book. It's called The Constance, the Little Angel, and the Sad Christmas Tree.
Okay, so if you're ready, I will explain to you how this was born. So I had this book in my heart, but I really was going to take a few more years because I'm in the middle of finishing the project, the anniversary edition of Black and White Mixed Brown, and just came out of writing Edelweiss. And so I was going to take my time. However, I had a conversation with a parent that expressed that she really is not going to engage in the Christmas that we see with the trees and with Santa and all of those things. And then I understood where she was coming from, because somehow we merged everything together and it just became a hodgepodge of Christmassy stuff. However, as she was explaining to her child, we're not going to have a Christmas tree. Christmas trees are evil. I began to get concerned. I knew what she attempted to do. However, I also knew that the child has, all of their life, 5 or 6 years old, all their little life, they see, the Christmas trees during the holidays, and they see other families doing it, and suddenly, they're being told the Christmas tree is evil. And of course, it came because the parents became very involved in a church, and we know that the original story of Christmas actually started in my neck of the woods in Europe, and very close in the Bavaria Mountains. And it was a pagan activity where, and however, when we take things away from children, we condemn a decoration, the child may get confused and very sad. And so I said, well, how can I write a book that is going to maybe attempt to allow the child to explore, where did this come from? Why does that not fit into my Christianity? However, how can I still celebrate Christmas with a Christmas tree without going the pagan route? And that's where this came from. And then my little child's mind just went all over the place. And here we are. And if most of you, if you followed me, I have a little series called Constance the Little Angel. And that little angel is going on different tests sent by God. So I was like, okay, let me send my little angel on a mission, and let's see what she's going to do. I can't hear you. I lost the sound.
It's me. I said I like that, and I like that, how we can be inspired by our own lived experience, and then from that, your creative juices, as you said, start to flow. It's like, okay, how can I address this in a way that can be meaningful and helpful? Because you're right, if we've allowed our children to experience something, and then quickly we take it from them, and it's basically cursed, that young mind is confused. It's like, well, it was okay yesterday, but now today it isn't, because of a perception, or sometimes just a new indoctrination of how we want our lives to go. Neither good nor bad, it's just a choice. But there is a responsibility in helping children to really understand change and navigate it in their own little world.
That is so perfect the way you put it. Um, and one of the things that I thought about is, well, first of all, trees are created by God. All creation is created by God. It is the human mindset, whatever took place, and we're not going to go into the actual pagan religion. However, so it was not that the tree was brought into the house to decorate. It was the belief system that went along with that tree. And they began to worship, the sun, the moon, whatever, and the tree. And that function, not the tree, that's decorated, but that function and that belief that goes along with it, that's what we are attempting to show the child. First of all, the tree in itself, there is nothing evil about it. So this little tree is out there in the woods, and all of a sudden it's thinking too, why am I evil? Why no one wants to come and bring me home now? And it doesn't understand. The child doesn't understand. The tree doesn't understand. And the little angel finds it. And the angel is interceding, okay, and actually interceding for the family's behalf. And I don't go into depths about whatever, because we want to be respectful to everything. But again, I wanted to show we have taken something that has been created. If you believe in creation, everything's been created by God. So you can bring in a tree and you can decorate it. You just need to have it in its right place and explain to the children what it is. And so that's how this story, I was like, maybe the tree can help us to help the child to bridge where they are. And then it's up to the parents if they will allow the story to come into their house. Because again, we want to be respectful and not condemn anyone. We just want to have like a little bit of a revelation how we take things out of context and then just begin to either worship something we shouldn't or condemn things we shouldn't.
Right.
So, you understand where I'm going with this?
Yes, I do. So you preface this by saying that you have a series of Constance the Little Angel. How did you come up with Constance the Little Angel? Where'd she come from?
Well, let me tell you where she comes from. So many people here, when I came to the United States, they call me Connie, Connie, which is okay. In Europe, I grew up as Connie. And the difference of Connie was the abbreviation for Cornelia. So if people called someone Connie, they would be like, okay, there must be a Cornelia. And if they called Connie, Connie, that must be a Constance. And I was like, see, okay, so since I have become Connie and Connie, so I can be both. And we're going to name that little angel Constance.
Now, how many books so far in the series?
Okay, so with multiple different publishing companies. Again, I was a brand new author. I didn't know any better, so I had to get started somewhere. So Author House has the very first one, which is the actual prototype. It looks more like a coloring book prototype of Constance the Little Angel. Interesting story in there is that was my first children's book written for and with multicultural children. Okay, and again, it is the Constance begins to help a multicultural child that is crying because the child has been teased and doesn't, lost its identity. So that one is called Constance the Little Angel Wants Curls. So she began her journey with straight hair, very fair skin. She finds this little beautiful girl with gorgeous curls, and she tells God, I want curls too. I want curls. And God said, well, you do your job first, and you help this child. And at the end of the story, she's doing a great job. You have to read it. And at the end of the story, her reward is she gets curls. But so she could be Asian sometimes. She could be Bavarian sometimes. She could be African American. But again, the angel is what is needed at that point in time.
When you said that, it made me think about just us in our adulthood, right? It's being what people need at a certain time, leaning in, listening. How do we show up? And sometimes it's listening, right? Or even just observing. And if we have the means to give that word of encouragement or a smile or a hand of assistance, then we are being in that moment what someone needs. And your stories really take us, even as adults, back to basics, because I believe, Connie, that when we read to our children, we are re-impressing our mind on those stories, on those back to basic principles that we should hopefully be holding dear to ourselves. And those are the things that help to shape our value system, or at least reinforce our value system.
Absolutely. I love that. And again, in this story here, it is, and you tapped right into that. It is for the adult that is reading and sharing the story. And I'm sharing scripture in there. Okay. I'm sharing a Christmas song in there. And again, where all the earth, let everything that has breath praise the Lord. And for those that don't realize, trees are breathing. Trees are, is a breathing, living thing. And again, to have that parent as they're exploring this story say, yes, I may not, I want my child to know what is the difference. We are a Christian family, and so this is what our values are. This is what we believe. We're not condemning anything or anyone. And we don't worship decorations. We don't do that. But we love the tree because it smells great and it is beautiful and God created it and it's not evil. And see, and again, to not go to such extremes that we are damaging a child that may, just because of that, go the opposite way. Because we have to understand that as we are reading to our children, as we are celebrating the season of the most precious gift ever given, we just need to make sure that we keep everything just so the child can understand what our belief system is. And I wanted to make sure again that, first of all, I am telling in that story, none of us knows exactly when Christ was born. We commemorate it on this day. And, sorry, there wasn't any snow and there wasn't any, it was a very different environment. And just to get some, the truth, not just some truth, but the truth in the story so the child can understand, but also, to still have that joyful, experience that is all around them.
I love that. What age is this written for? A specific age group? Like what age would a parent, if for those that are out there thinking about, I'd love to get a stocking stuffer for my child, Christmas is around the corner, what age group would this most resonate with?
We were thinking about this. Most likely it would be like to the 4 to 8, but it really goes, you can read before that. It is very colorful, has beautiful illustrations. They did an incredible job with it. But also beyond, like we just said, for the adult that is reading, again, it all depends. I read children's books. I read stories. So, sometimes if the adult would just come to a meaningful children's story and read it, maybe their heart will soften. Maybe they will, be able to do things. But, if you have to put an age group, 4 through 8 would be the perfect age for that. And it is going to be available. So Monday, Tuesday, it should be showing up on Amazon, and it can be under the Christmas tree. And then, electronically, we can just pop it in on Kindle and have that. But again, we want to make sure that we are going beyond, again, just reading a little fictional Christmas story, but we are going to show some reality. We're going to have this song to sing along. I will have the words in there. We pull the words for it, but also, again, to let the child still enjoy God's creation. Yes, I would be so sad to hear that people will stop allowing the children to decorate a tree. We just have to put it in the proper context. I'm out of the box. So again, if you put me in the box, I'm going to crawl out. So, I would tell you everything that I learned about Jesus as he walked the earth, that he was out of the box. And the biggest rebukes he had for the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the religious, and I call it hyper spiritual community. Okay. And so if you are a Christian, okay, and that's what you are, that's what you have as your spiritual walk in this earth, then you follow Christ. And we're supposed to be Christ-like as we walk the earth. Okay. We're supposed to follow Jesus. He reached out. He was multicultural. He would take the people that the religious community would shun, and again, he would teach, but he would teach with agape love, that unconditional love. He would literally take a moment and just sit down, read the Sermon of the Mount. He would just sit down for a moment, and then he would bring things down to where humanity could understand. And again, that is when we just come in and we cut, slice, and dice because we are so hyper spiritual, we are no earthly good. How are we going to reach anyone? Who wants that type of Christianity? Now, that doesn't mean that we have to compromise. And that's what most people would say as they would condemn, what we are talking about right now. That doesn't mean you have to compromise what you believe. But again, when we are looking at the different celebrations, it's the same thing with Easter. I can go on and on and on about those things. Yes, we know that the Easter bunny doesn't lay Easter eggs. Okay. And we know that has nothing to do with Jesus laying down his life. He didn't get murdered. He laid down his life on the cross. And we can sit there and condemn everyone that is coloring Easter eggs and all these things. And yes, it had some pagan roots, but the egg in itself. I have a question. What came first, the chicken or the egg? Anyway, I have questions when I get to heaven. That's how I think. The egg was created by God. The chicken was created by God. The bunny is created by God. It's not their fault that humanity's, mind went totally different. So as we are teaching children what the difference is, they still can celebrate things, but not worship it as a religion. That's how I think, and a lot of people disagree with me.
And I like what you said just now, and I'm actually glad that you didn't pick O Tannenbaum, even though I love the song, because it does sound like you're worshiping the tree.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And that's exactly, I'm glad you said that, but exactly as I'm listening to it, and I love the song. And it was written in Bavaria. So again, love the song, but sometimes we have to take a deep dive into what we are repeating and what we're saying. So I'm like, okay, I'm not going to use it. That doesn't mean I hate the song now. However,
Right.
We want to teach that we are not worshiping decorations. We're not worshiping this. We're celebrating and commemorating a very special day where Christ came to this earth and everything changed for humanity. And so, but guys, the Christmas tree, the little tree out there was so sad. But you know what? Constance did her thing, and the family came, and the Christmas tree, they brought it home. The story ends with so many people, when they bring life trees home, they keep the root system and
Yes.
they plant it.
Again.
So to make you laugh, yesterday I was out with my oldest daughter, and we were looking for Christmas trees, and we brought a little bitty tree home, and I told her the story, and she said, "Mom, only you can come. How you come up with this stuff?" And she said, "But you know what? It made me think about certain things." And I was like, "See, that's all we want to do, is to tell our children, allow them to enjoy stories. Don't confuse them. Bring the story forward. Let them know where certain things come from, but don't take everything away from them."
Yes. No, I totally agree. And I liked what you said earlier, that when we remember, God, the creative being, not only created us, but he did create the trees. And he said it was good.
It was good.
It was good. Yeah. And again, it's being careful, not condemning. And you can take that and go down so many other lanes, right? But we're here talking about this beautiful new Christmas story that we hope you all get and have in your home and read every single year, just like a lot of the other classics. Why can't this be another classic? Right, Connie?
Oh, I would absolutely love it. And again, I thank you so much for always having an open heart and an open ear to hear something that, that's a little different, but to allow me to explain where the different is coming from. And again, we have to take care of our children. So our children's stories need to have substance.
Yes.
So we don't have to say, okay, now, at what age do you suddenly tell them, okay, that wasn't the truth. It was just fantasy, and you've been believing all of this, and now we're switching over. How about telling stories where we allow them to celebrate fun things and different things, but throughout the story, we share where this came from, and what do we believe and how do we believe, and then always make sure that we point them to the right direction. And that's at the end of the book, I'm sharing the biggest gift that has ever been given is John 3:16. And for all of us, for every single one of us, and God's creation, the earth and everything that is in it, is for us to enjoy. That is so important. And that is the spirit of Christmas. And that is there for all of us, for every single one of us, and that we need to reach out to one another, every shade and flavor of humanity. And that's what they're working on right now, because I make sure, I'm like, nope, this person needs to be chocolate brown. This person needs to be mocha. This person needs to be, because it takes all of us to make this world a better place.
Yes, yes. Well, Connie, thank you so much for joining us and for telling us about Constance the Angel and the Sad Little Christmas Tree, which has an amazing, beautiful, and happy ending. We encourage you, again, if you're thinking about something special, a great stocking stuffer for your children, for a friend, buy a couple and give them as a gift. They'll be available on Amazon. You can get Kindle, paperback, and hard copy. Thank you so very much, Connie, for joining us.
Thank you and auf Wiedersehen. And like we say in Germany, habt alle ein frohes Weihnachten. And we lived in Hawaii, so Mele Kalikimaka also.
Yeah. Maka, Buon Natale,
Woo!
and Buon
Yes.
Noel.
Amen.
Bye, everyone.
Power of the Pen with Luana Bradford, expanding the impact and influence of authors from around the world. If you want to change the world, pick up your pen and write, said Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Books are uniquely portable magic. Power of the Pen spotlights authors from around the world. Listen as authors share messages that educate, motivate, inspire, and entertain. Join us each Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern on e360tv.com.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Power of the Pen. I am Luana Bradford, and thank you all for following us on E360 TV. And I'm excited because we come at you with all types of books and authors and experiences to help expand your view when it comes to life and life application. And we have a very special book that we're going to be featuring today, along with the author, Alan Northcutt, and his children's book entitled The Legend of Chris Moose, A Christmas Story. And I know you're wondering, okay, Luana, what does this have to do with me? Well, it doesn't matter if you are a itty bitty, a youngster, or even a senior in life. I think this book is peppered with life applications that can help us do better, live better, and really serve humanity at the best and highest version of ourselves. In just a moment, you will meet none other than Mr. Alan Northcutt. Good morning, Mr. Northcutt. How's it going?
It's going great.
Good. Thank you so much.
Very excited about talking about my book.
Yes. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule. We're in the throes of the holiday season, and your book is a Christmas story. And I just want to tell the audience a little bit about your background. You served in the military, a combat pilot, had 191 combat missions, then went on into the financial industry where you served as an investment banker. And now you're writing children's stories. Walk me through that bridge. How did you go from military, finance, to now inspiring the world with storytelling?
Well, I've written a few things about my background that the listeners might find interesting. I was born on February 4th, 1941, and the significance of that in Louisville, Kentucky. And the significance of that is it's 9 months after Derby Day. So I was conceived at a Derby party, hence lifelong interest in horses and owning racehorses, fox hunting, 3-day eventing. I rode in a bunch of flat races and steeplechase races.
Wow.
I figured I was a little too old to be doing that. And I won some flat races, never did win a steeplechase. In high school, I played football as tailback on offense and safety on defense, and kickoff and punt returners. In baseball, I was shortstop and was always the leadoff hitter. I would bunt to get on base, then steal second and third, because I could. They timed me at a 100-yard dash, and I could run at 10.8 seconds, and the Olympic record was 10.2. So I wouldn't have been in the Olympics because those guys are,
You had a little speed, so.
I had a little speed, and I ain't talking about drugs. When I graduated from college, I joined the Marine Corps and flew 191 combat missions, was awarded 14 air medals, which you get an air medal for 20 points. You get, if you fly a mission, you get 1 point. And if you take hostile fire, you get 2 points.
Okay.
So that's where the 14 Air Medal. I didn't do anything special. Just I came back alive. That was special. So we were at our commanding officer, whose name was Moose Campbell, Guy R, and his nickname was Moose because he was 6'2" and about 250 pounds. Big guy, barely fit in a plane. When I got out in 1968, the Marine Reserve Unit in Louisville called me and said, come out to our office in uniform and bring your family. Where they gave my wife my Distinguished Flying Cross, and she pinned it on my uniform. And I had bought a 100-acre farm from a friend, and it was called Holiday Hill Farm because they spent the weekends and holidays out on that farm. And my daughter said, let's don't take their name. Let's make up our own name. Why don't we call it Flying Cross Farm? So it is now Flying Cross Farm, and we have 3-day events and mini trials out there. And I get letters from people that come and compete, and they said, your event is much better than the big national ones in Lexington, Kentucky, and Virginia and Maryland, because you treat us like family.
Mr. Northcutt, let me pause right there, because I'm hearing, like you said, the one individual's name was Moose from the military, who was big. You're talking about your farm that you bought, and how you show up in service. It sounds like all of these have some inspiration to this book.
Well, I'll get into the origin of the book. In the mid-1980s, I was getting a divorce. I had 2 children, one of whom had a learning disability. He had trouble in school, but I made sure that he had lots of common sense, and he could do well playing sports like golf. Taught him to sail a little one-man sailboat, skiing, and riding horses. When he was 10 years old, they had a little event at one of the nearby farms, and it was a jumping contest, and they jumped a foot. If they knocked the rail down, they were out. Well, to make a long story short, he jumped 4 feet bareback on a $300 horse that I had bought. And a lot of these other kids are riding $10,000 horses, and but everybody was in tears when he won, cheering for him. It was a pretty special day. I was living on $600 a month. It's Christmas Eve, and I had a couple of drinks of bourbon, which got the creative juices flowing. Suddenly the idea came up that I'd write a new Christmas classic, like The Night Before Christmas. I rode horses with a group of people, and one of the ladies had nicknames for all the animals, like Nosy the Rabbit, Smarty the Fox, Hooty the Owl, etc. There's about 10 of them. All the woodland creatures had Christmas Eve at Mom and Papa Bear's house, and Ugly the Moose picked all the animals up, and they rode in his antlers because they couldn't get through the deep snow.
So let me ask you a question right there, because
sure.
Now the book is titled The Legend of Christmas, but you started off with the book that his name was Ugly.
Right. Well, he was ugly. There's a little poem. He didn't like his name, didn't like it one bit. But when he saw his reflection, he saw how it fit. And, he was sort of excluded or teased a little bit because he was ugly. And there's a lesson in that.
Yeah, there definitely is. It makes me think about, we talk about bullying today and how so many children are victims of that. And and they don't have the skills to deal with it. And so then they start to internalize that. And like you said, with at that time, Ugly the Moose looked at himself and he felt he was ugly. But you said something, because I did read the book. You said, even though he felt that way, and I'm paraphrasing it, his friends still loved him just the same.
Right. Well, my son, I'll diverge for just a minute. He's learning disabled.
Okay.
He's got a lot of common sense and can ski and ride and sail and do recreational things. But there was a kid in his class at a boarding school for disabled people that was always tripping him and pushing him and knocking books out of his hand. And he said, "Dad, what do I do?" I said, "Next time he does it, just haul back and hit him right in the end of his nose as hard as you can." And he won't do that anymore. So I get a call from his teacher and says, "Mr. Northcutt, your son told me that you told him to hit little Johnny right in the nose. We don't handle things like that with violence." And I said, "Ma'am, you knew that my son was getting bullied, tripped and made fun of and books knocked out of his hands, and you didn't do anything about it. So he had to take up for himself." And to her credit, she says, "I did see all that going on and I didn't do anything about it. So he did the right thing." And I apologize for, criticizing you for telling him to do that. All the woodland creatures had Christmas Eve at Mom and Papa Bear's house, and Ugly the Moose picked them all up and they wrote in his antlers. Papa Bear, that year, Papa Bear forgot to get the tree. And the party it's too far away to go get one. So here's Ugly the Moose standing outside, excluded from the party because he's too big fit in the house. So Smarty the Fox said, "Why don't we open the window? And he can stick his head through the window and we can use his antlers as our tree." So they did. After they got all his antlers decorated with lights and ornaments and tinsel, Smarty the Fox said that he's not ugly anymore. He's beautiful. So we got to change his name from Ugly. And then somebody suggested, "Why don't we call him Chris?" "What's that got to do with anything?" He says, "Well, we'll call him Chris Moose. It sounds so much like Christmas. It could be the same." So they danced and they twirled. Then the party came alive and they danced and they twirled. And Chris Moose became known as the most beautiful moose in the world.
Oh, I love it. In its simplicity, there's a lot of complexity. So you mentioned exclusion, his whole self-identity, right? He saw himself as ugly, yet he had friendships, he had a community. But then when he went to this party, he wasn't able to get in, not because they were excluding him, but just his size. But then there was the innovation. Like you said, they opened up the window. He was able to come in. He gave the gift of himself that became the tree. And everyone was able to celebrate, and he was all a part of it. And then they were able to see him in a different light. And I think sometimes with us in life, Mr. Northcutt, that we may be judged, right, by many factors. But when people get close to us and get to see our beauty, then the whole framework of how we're seen and perceived translates. So I think this is amazing that his friends saw him one way. They loved him, but then they celebrated him when he gave the gift of himself. That's what I took out of the book.
That's great. I hope everybody gets that kind of feeling out of it and lesson. That we all have value, no matter what our shortcomings or disabilities are. You have to find what you are really good at and be proud of it and make that your life's work.
Yes.
We all have value.
Yes,
we got to hunt for it.
exactly. So with your book, what's the next step? Are you doing book signings? Are you going to school doing readings? What's in store for you?
Well, I have a young man here named John Clark that is helping me, market it. And you are one of his suggestions. And fortunately, I got on your program, and then I'll talk to him later today or tomorrow and see what's next. I think I've got another, reading in a few days.
Yeah, I went to the website. Let me put this up. If anyone's interested in the book that Mr. Northcutt just gave us a synopsis of, The Legend of Christmas, a Christmas story by Alan Northcutt. It's available on Amazon, both the Kindle edition and the hardback. But I read some of the reviews, and the reviews were very, very impressive. It says, this is one of my daughter's favorite books. It has a very important message that's a great life lesson. It teaches kids to be kind and to include others. And we know that kindness goes a long way. And another person said, my children and I absolutely love this book. It has an amazing message about friendship, inclusivity, and not judging a book by its cover. And that was Emma Taylor.
Well, those are nice comments.
Yes, they definitely are. And I just want people to, again, think about holiday season, stocking stuffers. This is a great read. And, I was thinking, I saw also a review on Amazon. A person said it should be given 5 stars, and I'm paraphrasing it. And they said, McDonald's or someone else needs to co-brand with you and put this as part of their distribution and reaching kids, maybe part of their Happy Meal packs, for example. So, that may be another avenue for you, Mr. Northcutt, is, to really get it out to the masses, because it's such a relevant story, very timely, celebrating the meaning and theme of Christmas: community, family, belonging, celebration, and knowing, like you said, everyone has value. Every life is meaningful. Everyone has a gift to give. And I find, again, it inspired me. So even though it's a child's book, we can all be inspired by children's books, right? Sometimes it's the simple stories that change lives.
Absolutely. It's a book for people of all ages. Like the Night Before Christmas.
Yes.
That everybody reads to their kids.
Yes. Every Christmas. Yes. I have my book that sits on my coffee table. Every Christmas I bring it out, and I ordered my hard copy of this book hasn't arrived yet, but I do have the Kindle. So I always bring out my Christmas books during the holiday season. So I can tell you, as for the Bradford household, The Legend of Christmas will be one of the stories that we read as well.
Good. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. Is there any lasting words that you'd like to leave the audience?
I probably said it before, but everybody has value. No matter all your shortcomings, everybody does something well. So you need to find that one thing or two things and concentrate on it and make it your career, your hobby, or whatever puts a smile on your face and other people's faces.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. Well, to our listening audience, you just met the extraordinary, well-accomplished and children's author, Mr. Alan Northcutt, and his book, The Legend of Christmas, a Christmas story. I encourage you, go to Amazon and get your copy, give it as a gift, buy multiple copies. This is just an amazing book, and I promise you're not going to be able to read it and not be changed just a little bit. There's a gift inside for everyone. Thank you so much, Mr. Northcutt, and thank you to our listening audience.
Thank you for having me on.